Hi, today I thought to document something about what are rivers and what do we mean by river, how many parts of rivers are there, and how many types of rivers are there. So, this is just for a documentation purpose, and this is a very general and brief information. So, there is a source where I have taken this information from. In the description box, you can just go and check. So, come, let's dwell into it. Based on several sources such as Wikipedia and other sources, we can define river as it is a natural water course. Typically, we can call it as a flowing water body which flows from your higher elevation to the lower elevation ground, generally towards the ocean, sea, lake, or another river. This also plays a very important role in order to establish an ecosystem, provide habitat, water for agriculture, means for transportation. There are certain percentages of globally how water has been distributed. In that, river water or rivers are having a very small percentage of the earth's surface. So streams and rivers together compromises about 0.1% of the total earth's land surface. Similarly, the percentage of rivers in India, it's not only specifically for a river alone. There are water bodies that include lakes, reservoirs, ponds, all together, wholesomely cover around 4% of the total geographical area of India. Each of these rivers are having their own roles in terms of agriculture, drinking water supply, and cultural practices for industrial purposes, and so many other things. So that overall has around 4% of the total geographical area. When we talk about the percentages of the river, we understand how minimal is it. So that comes into the picturization that what are the water stressed regions. So globally there is a lack of water because of the regions experiencing lot of water scarcity, because it may be due to the urbanization, due to climate change impact, or there may be several other reasons. So this impacts lot of human health, agriculture, livelihood, not only human but also the other living organisms that are living on this earth. So mostly the most stressed regions for Middle East and North Africa, such as countries like Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, they extremely face water scarcity. Also, we see it in sub-Saharan Africa and Central Asia. These are globally most stressed regions. Even there are certain examples for India to be having the most stressed regions in terms of water scarcity. I'm just briefing out three regions over here, which is Rajasthan, few parts of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, also few regions in Maharashtra because of their arid climate and frequent droughts and severe water shortages. Even there is no proper water balancing, or we can say inadequate water resource allocation, and then there is frequent shortages of water, chronic water shortages, and frequent droughts. So these are just examples. There may be more other examples, but I thought these are most significant for us to understand the water stress regions in India. Now let us understand that there are different parts of the river. So in that we are having source, tributaries, channels, banks, bed, mouth, delta. So source is something that there is an origin of the river. Usually this has been found in the highland, or you can see in the mountains, where exactly the rainfall gets collected and it starts to flow. Then we are having something called as tributaries. These are something called as smaller streams or rivers that flow towards into the main river. Channel is a path where the water is flowing. Banks is the side of the river channels. Okay, the path where the water is flowing, and the sides of that water that has been flowing or the path is called as banks. Next, the bottom of that path of the river is called as your bed. Now, mouth of a river is called as a point where the river flows into another body of a river. Now, it can be a ocean, sea, or a lake. Even it can be another river, right? So this becomes a mouth. Next, something called as delta. It is a landform which is formed at the mouth of a river. Usually this is found because of the deposition of the sediments that has been carried by the river. So these are the parts of your river. Now I want to tell you the source of this work that I'm going to explain is from River Landscape Courses of River. So you can read this article. I have provided the link in the description box. It will give you a better insight. So I've taken this source of information from them for a better understanding. Even the diagram is from there. So you can see there is a river source which is starting from from the mountains, then it becomes a waterfall. There are small rivers called as tributaries, marsh, then we are having meander, then we are having floodplain, and then we are reaching towards the delta. So this is a part of your river. Now to break this into in a more understandable way, we will divide our river into three blocks. We can say it is an upper, middle and the lower. Now here we are going to understand the dynamic systems, how each parts having different characteristics and they have different function. Now if we take upper course, this is the origin of the river. This is actually happening where the water is actually when the rainfall falls over this region, and this mountainous or the highland will be the origin for the river to emerge, right? Now in this time we can see certain characteristics of this kind of river. First of all, it is a very fast flowing water. Next we see steep slopes, because since it is in a highland or mountainous, obviously the elevation is higher. We can see that erosion on transport is more, erosion of soil is more, because if the rainfall is more, it carries the sediments towards the lower reach. So here the dominant process is the erosion and the transformation. Now at this time we can see certain landforms which are forming V-shaped valleys, canyons, waterfalls and rapids. The feature of this kind of river at the upper course will be having high oxygen content in water, and this is very much significant. We can see vertical erosion, and we can also see certain features like as potholes that have been found at this level, right? Now we will understand what is middle course. The characteristics of the middle course shows that the water that has been flown has a slower rate when it is compared to the upper course. Also the slopes too are also to be not much steeper as the upper course. We can see that the river channel has also been widened enough and the discharge has also been increased. The dominant process that you can observe in the middle course is purely transport and sedimentation, because here we are forming certain landforms because of the sedimentation process, such as alluvial pales, floodplains and so many other things. So the feature of this main course are erosions are seen on the outer banks of the floodplains, and we can see the sediment depositions in the inner bank, which will start to form as a wider valleys. So in middle courses only we are able to find the formation of the wider valleys, and we can see the sediment depositions in the terms of the inner bank. So this is all about the middle course. Lower course becomes the last part of our river, which is mostly because of its gentle slope nature, and here the river tends to become more slower than the previous two courses, and the most dominant process is our sedimentations and transport of this fine materials. The landforms which have been developed at this stage becomes more extensive floodplains and delta regions because of its high fertile nature, because of the presence of the water and the soil. Here we can see groundwater recharge also. So at this region mostly agriculture activities has to be taken place. So during the end of the river, that is the mouth of a river, we see there are certain types of landforms that can be a delta, it can be a floodplain, it can be estuary. So a delta is nothing but it is a sediment deposition when the river slows down upon entering a larger water body, it starts creating a fertile land. So in India we are having our Sundarbans and Godavari Delta and Mahanadi Delta. So these are actually largest delta in the world, that is Sundarbans Delta, because it is formed by Ganga, Brahmaputra and Meghna rivers. It is having a very rich in diversity. Also we can see because of Godavari is known as one of the fertile soils for India, and even Mahanadi, which is the most important delta region which is providing higher rice cultivation and biodiversity. So this is about the landforms compared to India. I am giving an example about India. Next is our estuary. So this is nothing but where the river, the fresh water meets and mixes with the sea water. Now this will allow the sediments to disperse quickly, and these are certain examples such as you can see Hooghly River. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing this word right, but this meets the Bay of Bengal. This is a very much important, crucial Kolkata port, which is important for transportation and fisheries. Next, we are having Narmada estuary. So it is located in Gujarat, and here the Narmada River will meet Arabian Sea. So this is also very much important for fishing. Next, we can also see in Goa, where we can see all the rivers that meet Arabian Sea are very much important for local ecosystem and tourism because they are near the Western Ghats. So this is just an end of the river where either it meets the fresh water body or it just meets to an other water body apart from the sea. So this is about the landforms at the river mouth. As we have understood what are the parts of the river and how each courses are having their dominant features. Now for that we should understand what are the types of rivers that flow. Mainly there are three, but based on our river characteristics and the region where they are coming from and what are the requirements, we are differentiating different types in terms of that. So perennial river, by the word itself we can understand that the river is flowing throughout. It is continuous throughout the year. One of the best example is our Nile river. Next is seasonal river. This is only happening when we can have enough rainfall or the snow melt for a particular season. At that time you can see the flow of the river is been consistent for that particular season. Next, certain rivers that happen during only heavy rainfalls. Certain regions, certain rivers such as exotic rivers, they are originating only during the humid region and they are very much helpful during the dry regions. So they flow towards the dry regions. Next, some rivers are called as youthful rivers because they are characterized by their steep gradients and the active down cutting of their valleys. So you can see certain examples. Next, mature rivers are nothing but these are having gentler gradients and they are having good meandering courses. Old rivers are nothing but the rivers which are very low, which are having very low gradient, and they are often used to develop this extensive floodplains and delta. For example, you can see the lower course of Nile. So this is a global example. Now what in terms of certain stats we have to understand, what are the large, which is the largest river, which is the largest river by the discharge, which is the deepest river and shortest river. So that is it. We'll study in the next slide. These are the notable rivers in the world. So the longest river is the river Nile, which is seen in Africa, which is approximately 6,650 kilometers long. Next, we are having the largest river by discharge, that is Amazon River in South America. It is having an average discharge um, around 2 lakh cubic meters per second. Also the deepest river, that is Congo River in Africa, it has a depth around 220 meters, that is 720 feet deep. And the shortest river, that is Roy River in Montana, that is US, it is around about 61 meters long. So these are generally for our stats to remember. The types of river based on Indian rivers. As our knowledge, we are having more than 400 rivers, and each of them are used for cultural and agriculture, drinking, industrial, so many other purposes. So fitting them into the different types will become very tedious task, but we can understand with the major rivers in India. So the perennial rivers are nothing but the rivers that are continuously flown toward the year. So the best one, the example, the only example is Himalayan rivers. These are coming from the Himalayan ranges, usually because of the rainfall or the snow melt. So they continuously flow throughout the year. The example is Ganga, Yamuna, Brahmaputra, and Indus. The seasonal rivers, which are completely dependent on the monsoon rains, these are also called as peninsular rivers. These are only flowing towards the time of monsoons, and they dry up during the dry seasons. The best examples are Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, and Mahanadi. Now, west flowing rivers are the rivers which are flowing towards the Arabian Sea. The examples are Narmada, Mahi, etc. And east flowing rivers are the river that is flowing towards the Bay of Bengal, that is Ganga, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. So the whole video makes us understand what is a river, what are the different parts of the river, what are the different characteristics, where exactly the courses are there, that is found in the upper, middle, and the lower, what is found in the delta region, what are the different types of the rivers, and in Indian rivers. So what we have to come up to a conclusion. The conclusion is the importance of understanding the river. So, water supply, ecosystem, transportation, agriculture, energy, flood management, climate and weather patterns. These are just few. There can be many diverse importance of rivers. Just to be more general and specific, I can say rivers are the major source for drinking waters. Also groundwater, but then rivers, since it is a surface water, it is mostly used for irrigation and industrial, also few parts for drinking. Ecosystems, it is also helping in ecosystems in terms of supporting diverse ecosystems, in terms of whether it is fish, birds, or any other wildlife. And transportations, as we have seen historically and even in currently, rivers are used for transportation of goods and for the people. Agriculture, because of the fertility of the soil is so much during the lower coast region, that is where we find the delta region. Floodplains of the rivers are very fertile, and they are very much important for farming. So also they are used for hydroelectric power and so many other things. They're providing reservoirs and thermal hydrothermal power stations. So many applications have been formed. Also we can understand flood management and climate and weather patterns. So these all are very much important to understand, manage, mitigate, and able to stop water scarcity, allow proper water balancing. So these are just few examples of the importance of our river. So to summarize the whole video on a note, I can just say understanding rivers is important even for a common man, especially when you are in India, because water resource management is very much important, flood management is important, agriculture, environmental awareness, economic benefits, cultural significance, health and hygiene, and policy and advocacy. Now, why this is important? Because there should be an efficient use and conservation of water for drinking as well as irrigation. We should be prepared for the safety to avoid flood prone areas. And basically, if you understand the types of rivers, you can have a clear understanding on what type of crops you're selecting and what type of land you should use for effective optimization of crop yields, and how can you protect the biodiversity, how can you reduce the pollution. Also you can see economical benefits such as sustainable fishing, you can promote tourism, then you can also respect cultural and religious practices that are tied to rivers, because we Indians are very much religious towards the rivers, right? So all the rivers have been named on god and goddesses. So there is a lot of cultural significance. Also, we can prevent waterborne diseases, we can improve community health. Also, we can advocate and inform public to participate in water resource management and policy making. Overall, this knowledge also gives a particular common man understanding based on how efficiently you can enhance resource management, safety, environmental conservation, cultural appreciation, community health. So each river has its own unique feature, its own unique influence based on its flood patterns, sediments, ecological significations, and impacts and surrounding landscapes. So it is important. So I thought this video will help even a common man who wants to understand about it. So yes, thank you, and yeah, bye.